What is up, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning in. We got Sideline to Sideline. We have a smaller crew tonight, but still have all the great info and fun that we're going to have on the show tonight. But look, it's on the ball on a Thursday on Sideline to Sideline. You already know. Got next to me, not guarding the two, he's guarding the three. Brett rocking the Packers jersey. How you doing tonight?
I am doing great. I'm hyped for some great football tonight, and I am getting ready to smash the Bears at 3:25 on Sunday.
Hey, it's actually kind of building up to be a good slate of games this week. Like, there's a lot of games with a lot of playoff implications that we will get into, but do want to start off with some NFL news and notes before we get into any of that. So the first story, Jackson Dart. Like, if you saw the game between the Giants and the Patriots, Jackson Dart was what's going on, Jory? Um, he I think Jackson Dart kind of showed where, if you're a Giants fan, you might be a little bit worried about his play style. He took a big hit from Harold Landry, even though it was like a glancing blow, but it kind of showed that. And made to his credit, Jackson Dart is a gamer. He's gonna try to get every yard he can. But the Christian Ellis hit on the sideline, which Jackson Dart said, look, we're not playing soccer, so he didn't condemn the hit or anything. Giants fans, some of them a little dirty, but I guess what were your thoughts on the hit on the sideline, which Troy Aikman did say he was in bounds. He was going for the first down. What's Christian Ellis really supposed to do?
I mean, that's just the risk you take fighting for extra yards, right? Like, if he didn't want to get hit,
Yeah.
run out of bounds like a yard or two earlier, but he chose to go for the extra yards and he got hit in bounds. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Look, these guys play football. All because they play quarterback, that doesn't mean they should, be exempt from getting hit in bounds. So it was a clean hit. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't even know why people made a big deal out of it, like when it happened. Like, it was clean, right from the jump. So overall, just nothing wrong with it. It's football. All because you're a quarterback doesn't mean you're exempt from getting hit.
Right. I don't want. Well, I actually don't have a problem with the Giants' reaction. I feel like that's the way you're supposed to react when your quarterback takes a hit, but the hit was not dirty. I agree. It was a clean hit. And look, this could be the result of what was it? It was like a couple of seasons ago where a lot of people started talking about Patrick Mahomes kind of manipulating the rules to, get linebackers to kind of ease off of him, and then he'd gain a few extra yards. Look, I think the statement is out there. If you're going to toe that line between staying in and going out, you're going to get laid out. And I'm glad they didn't throw the flag. Like, when he first hit him, I kind of assumed the flag was going to come out only because I'm so used to quarterbacks in that situation, it happening. But they understood what was going on. And what's going on, Anthony, who's a Falcons fan? Okay. But Christian Ellis also had another hit on Gunnar Olszewski. Kick return later in the game that led to a fumble as well, which that one was that's just special teams. It is a rough job. You don't like to see the helmet-to-helmet hits, but that's kind of what happens on special teams. Yeah, Christian Ellis was flying all around. But, so yeah, I think the hit probably lets other quarterbacks know. And Mike Vrabel actually said this after the game. He was like, it's a message to Drake May as well, that if you're going to scramble, you got to get down early, otherwise you'll take hits like that. They were. It was good to see as a Patriots fan. But, that's just a little teaser to kick us off for the night. Let's get into Justin Jefferson. He spoke about how this has been one of the most difficult seasons in his career, which I think we all can agree that the quarterback play just hasn't been up to par in Minnesota. If you're the Vikings organization, is it too soon or the right time to kind of consider McCarthy a bust and get back into the quarterback market? Or do you kind of give him some more time and hopefully he develops into something? Or yeah, you hope for maybe a healthy season for him before you fully evaluate him. Where are you at with JJ McCarthy right now?
Nah, it ain't too early to get it back in the quarterback market. Look, I what if you can find your quarterback of the future, go and get him because it clearly isn't JJ McCarthy. Like I think it's simple as that. Normally, a quarterback will show flashes.
Mm-hmm.
JJ McCarthy hasn't really done that. He's gotten hot a couple times. Great. I've seen a lot of journeyman quarterback get hot for stretches, even full games. I watched guys like Matt Flynn throw 6 touchdown passes in a game to beat the Lions in a week 16. That doesn't mean he was a franchise quarterback.
Right.
So I think it's one of those things that I don't think he's shown enough. And if you have a chance that you see a guy that you think can be an actual franchise quarterback, you go ahead and do it. You pretty much just Josh Rosen him. Just admit your mistake, take another quarterback, and just kind of move forward. I think the worst thing that they can do is dwell on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just make a mistake and then be too proud to admit you make a mistake. And now all of a sudden you're wasting years of Justin Jefferson's prime. You're wasting valuable contract years of, Jordan Addison, who will be due for an extension at some
Yeah.
point. So I just don't think you can afford to make that mistake.
Yeah, and I do think JJ McCarthy. Once again, like if you're new Patriots fan, Brett's a Packers fan, but that draft, there were a lot of like Patriots fans and some people that were analysts that wanted JJ McCarthy over Drake May. Crazy to think where we might be right now if that happened and if the front office felt the same way about JJ McCarthy. Like, he was a guy at Michigan that I kind of wondered about because Michigan's style of play, I would say, probably isn't really quarterback centric, especially under Jim Harbaugh. Like they loved running the ball, they relied on their defense. So I always wondered what McCarthy would be like at the next level. And I just think what we're seeing right now is he's not it. Like he's not ready right now. Not to say he can't be a starting quarterback. I just think right now he just needs a lot more time in the oven, I guess you'd say. But um, I think it's a lot to be thrust into the situation that he was thrown into, where you have Justin Jefferson, you have Addison, you have Hawkinson, like you have a high-powered offense waiting for you. And if you're kind of not ready for that stage, this is what you get. And we now know Brosmer isn't the answer either, because that guy was just throwing up prayers and just hoping. Like I don't know. I don't know what Minnesota does because Jefferson is just frustrated now. You let this linger, and he may become full blown like dismissive of the franchise. What's up, Sideline and Key?
Oh man, if the Patriots would have drafted JJ over Drake May, you might see Kyle the Falcons fan at this point.
Hey, I don't know. It might happen that way. Yeah. Look, it's with all these young quarterbacks. It's obviously about the situation, and like I said, I just think for him, he's a guy who probably needed to sit a little bit more time behind an established veteran. I don't know, maybe a Sam Darnold, and maybe he would have been better off. So
Or Daniel
Minnesota put
Jones.
themselves in this. Yeah,
They had
exactly.
him in the building last year.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, Minnesota has now heard from their star receiver. We'll see what their course of action is at this point. Next up, Lamar Jackson has missed more practice time this week. The Ravens say that he's gonna play, well, they believe he'll play versus the Steelers. Are we just gonna write this off as maybe just a bad season for Lamar where health was just an issue? And should Ravens fans be worried that Lamar just is not that healthy, which probably impacts their ability to not only make the playoffs but be like legit contenders. Like they're 6-6. We know what the season's been. We've talked about them enough on here. They just don't look right. Whether it's defensively, offensively, they still have the issues with how to incorporate Derrick Henry, which is wild to me that that's an issue that you have offensively. How to use a guy that runs over people, showed last season could run for like 2,000 yards, and you still can't incorporate him. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Todd Monken's a guy who should be on the hot seat as a coordinator. I think Harbaugh should be on the hot seat as a coach because I think the Ravens have kind of messed up this window that they should have had. And now it seems like they're almost, not necessarily an afterthought, but they've been a disappointing team this season. And then, oh yeah, they re-signed Mark Andrews for 3 years, which I thought Mark Andrews was the problem last year because he was dropping passes, but now they want him to be a Raven for life, I guess. So you just kind of look at the Ravens situation, how do you, I guess, kind of assess it? And is there still a good team somewhere in this group, or do you kind of just write off this year?
I think you just write off this year. I think you just write off this year. The problem with the Ravens, I think it's more of a line issue. They get really bad guard play.
Yeah.
Especially, we all know the legend of Daniel Falele. It's not good.
Yeah.
But he's not the only problem on that line. And even the most mobile quarterback and the most bruising running back can only make up for so much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're dealing with Lamar Jackson, who's hurt. He's clearly banged up. So now he might not have as much legs, as he normally does to overcome things like this. So I just think that in the offseason, the first thing they're going to have to do is address the trenches. How are we going to protect Lamar? Because obviously Lamar's a great runner. No doubt about that. That being said, if you want to preserve him for longer, you can't just keep throwing subpar, line play in front of him and being like, well, Lamar's legs will do the rest, because we kind of showed, like, look at Russell Wilson. We saw him. He did well for a while with, subpar, guard play and offensive line play. But obviously, as he got older, he couldn't overcome that. So I think obviously Lamar will age better than someone like Russ. That being said, go get some guards, just beef up that line, just make Lamar's life a little easier so he doesn't have to use his legs as much going forward.
What's going on, JM?
That's good.
Eagles are struggling due to O-line issues. We'll talk about the Eagles a little bit later. Bad O-line will devastate all but most. I mean, look, that's what the Eagles kind of showed us the past couple of years, that you take care of the O-line, you take care of the D-line, you're kind of set. And you also have to look at what the Ravens, some of Henry's struggles have been because of that O-line. I mean, play calling aside as well, but the O-line hasn't necessarily been opening up running lanes for him like they should be. So I think, JM is right. Your O-line can cripple your offense in many ways that, maybe you don't consciously think about. And look, Falele, I mean, Jory, who's in the chat, you watch Passion and Precision, like, she brings him up all the time because the clips of him, like, blocking air or getting spun around for, like, no reason, like, that's just crazy work that he is still out there week after week on that line, and they're expecting him to actually do his job. So it's crazy.
He might be like, I feel like the worst offensive line play I've seen, and Sijin, if you're still in here, I'm sorry for bringing this name up. It either has to belong to Falele or Anthony Bradford. Anthony Bradford of the Seahawks is just absolutely also another really bad one. It's amazing how they have overcome that.
Yeah. Even Mahomes is struggling due to high pressure from bad blocking up front. JM once again. We will talk Chiefs later on. What's up, Welder? Welder's Fence. If it were you, would you play Gainwell or Vattel, the Chargers running back? I guess as a running back. Got a fantasy question. Um, I guess you want to tackle this one.
Oh, let me give myself a fresh reminder on who each team is playing this week.
That would definitely, yeah. Well,
Oh, right.
Steelers have
And,
the Ravens
and
defense.
Chargers have the Eagles defense. You know what? I'd probably go. I'd probably go with Chargers. I think I'd go with Vidal. Look, we just watched this Eagles team get gashed on the ground, and if
Mm-hmm.
there's one thing we know for certain, Chargers are just gonna run the ball down the throats. Granted, the Steelers is an interesting one too, but that's so tough because also you just watch the Steelers get gashed by the same play like 30 times. You know what? I changed my mind. I'd go Gainwell. I'm just
I was actually
remembering
going to
how.
say, I was actually going to say I would go Gainwell because I believe the stat is the Steelers have the most receptions by running backs in the league, and I think Gainwell will play into that as well. And look, with the Ravens, you can attack that linebacking group in passing plays. So I would go Gainwell, but I kind of think you might not be wrong going either way. I would lean Gainwell.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll change. I'm going to go Gainwell.
All right, well there you go, Welders fence. Hopefully we have helped you out. If you end up losing your matchup because of our decision,
Say,
our bad.
I thought about Vidal, then I remembered like the Bills ran this. They ran like the same run concept, the duo blocking scheme, like 29 times, and it worked like every time
Mm-hmm.
because the Steelers just had no clue how to adjust. So I think the lack of in-game adjustments, and when the Steelers did try to adjust, it was the funniest thing ever. They got like four guys lined up like right behind each other, and I'm like, what is this? It's just like when I'm playing Madden and I know the run's going one way, so I just start sprinting defensive backs over to one side of the
Mm-hmm.
field.
Yeah.
It was just a mind-boggling display by the Steelers.
Yeah. Um, so Welders fence. Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to help. Um, I guess really quickly before we get off the Ravens here, championship window still open, closed, barely cracked. Where would you put their championship window right now?
Say for who?
The Ravens.
Oh, the Ravens?
Yeah.
Barely cracked.
Okay.
I think it's going to take some adjustments, right? Look, when you have a quarterback as talented as Lamar Jackson, and there's still a lot of talent on that team,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make it work. But maybe you got to switch up, move on from Harborough. Maybe you got to find some new coordinators. I'm not sure. It's weird with them. It's always like mental when it comes to the playoffs. But I do think the talent is there that they like could theoretically still make a Super Bowl run.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it is coaching because it just seems like every time they get there, they just get too far into their own head and throw themselves off. So I would say like slightly cracked, but they need to make some changes on the coaching side of things.
Yeah. Until they switch out Harbaugh, it's closed. Look, I think at some point the organization has to look at the Harbaugh, tenure and wonder like how much longer they want to kind of go along with it. I agree. I think it's, I guess, barely cracked only because, you know, Lamar, two-time MVP, sure, that's got to mean something. You have Kyle Hamilton, like you have a couple of guys that I feel like you can work with. They do need to make some serious decisions. Like I said, the O-line needs to be looked at. I feel like the linebacking group needs to be looked at. In the secondary, even though they spent a lot of first-round picks in the secondary, like there's still issues on the back end. So that's a lot. And maybe it's crazy to think that's barely cracked, but I guess looking at the situation in the AFC where there's a bit of a transition that we're seeing this year, but a lot of the transitioning teams are like very young or something like that. And we don't know how their timeline is going to look either. So I think only because of that, they're kind of barely in the picture. But they're definitely fading by the week, further away from it.
I still like our idea as a joke to just take all of the AFC North coaches and just swap teams for them.
Right.
Except
All
we'll
those
just.
issues, what do they do? Extend Mark Andrews.
I mean, fair. They need. It's funny, but he's still probably the best tight end option that they have. Isaiah
Right, but
Isaiah
the weird
Likely.
thing was they were building up Likely last year, especially after the drops in the playoff game. They made it seem like, well, Likely will just take over. It seemed like it's been a very quiet year from Likely this year. And I know there's some injuries and stuff built into that, but I just don't. Yeah, I thought the conversation about Mark Andrews last year was reckless anyway. Like, yes, he had a drop in a big game. Great. But he is still a producing tight end. I agree, Jory. Yes. Oh, we got a Bears fan for you.
I love it. Hey, all I'm going to say is let the best team win. It's going to be a great time. Look, I might be a Packers fan, but
Dylan.
Look, I'm going to be a Packers fan. I'm going to crap talk your team, but it's all love. Also, sportsmanship. So may the best team win.
There you go. So, Dylan, hope to see you back in the chat next week, either gloating or, I guess, giving Brett some love for his team getting the win.
It's funny. I rarely talk smack talk divisional rivals. I only did it for the Lions last Tuesday because of all the stuff they decided to throw at us. As soon as you go, week 1 was a fluke. Wait till Thanksgiving, and you get smashed on Thanksgiving again. You kind of have it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I would only talk trash to the Jets fans, but they're not relevant enough for me to like waste my time on right now. So I kind of just let them be. But I definitely get it.
Yeah, Jets fans have been through enough.
Yeah, they have. All right, so here's another one. The NFL and the union have agreed to a new model for playing surfaces. So they're saying that I guess they can select their playing surfaces for stadiums, blah blah blah. It has to be approved. So they're saying that by 2026, it'll start to be applied, and by 2028, that all stadiums will be required to have an approved field. I read that, and I'm like, this has to be at MetLife Stadium. Because that stadium takes out any more knees. Like, they need to just bulldoze it and start over. And I think this is smart by the league to kind of fix the issue. Because not necessarily just MetLife. I know, like, Houston's field used to be one of those where I remember Wes Welker and a couple other guys have torn up their knees on that field as well. And I feel like if the research is there on what field works best, why not make it a uniform thing across the league? Seems so simple.
It's wild. I feel like this should have been a thing for a while now, right? Just go to grass. Just pick a something that everybody can agree on and move on. Like, I think it's I forgot which one it was, if it's MetLife or AT&T, but whoever's hosting the World Cup, the fact that they have like the artificial turf, but they're taking it out to put real grass in for the World Cup, and then they're taking it back out to put the turf in is wild to me.
Yeah.
So it shows that these owners can do it. It just shows that they really don't care. And like that turf at MetLife has always been a mess. So yeah, I think this is overdue, and this is how it should be. Just pick the surface that the players are most comfortable playing on, and let's get it done.
Right, and they kind of alluded it to being like the helmet policy, where like the league and the Players Association decides which helmet models their players are going to wear. That's what they're going to do for playing surfaces now. So only good can come from this, I guess. As long as they don't allow that MetLife Stadium field to continue. But all right, so let's get into some of the action from last week before ultimately arriving to tonight's game. First game I want to look at, Bills and the Steelers. Bills seemingly got a much needed win as the AFC East has kind of been slipping away from them. Pittsburgh ends up with their sixth loss on the season, allowed Baltimore to kind of tie them for the division, and now we're looking at it as, well, actually, Steelers now. We've seen Aaron Rodgers and his post-game comments. Also coming from that, we're getting James Harrison, Big Ben, talking about it might be time for Tomlin to move on. Now, Big Ben phrased it like, oh, I love Mike Tomlin, but maybe just for Tomlin's sake as well, he might need to move off of Pittsburgh. Where do you stand on Tomlin's job security? Is it time for him to move on from Pittsburgh? You think it's kind of crazy talk that we've kind of heard for like the past couple of years?
No, I think it's time, and I think that Mike Tomlin has had some, success as a coach. At the end of the day, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, I almost feel like that he could very well be in the almost like in a similar situation that we saw with Andy Reid at the end of his Philadelphia tenure, where he's a good coach, but he's been there so long that the locker room really needs a new voice. I have no doubt that when if Tomlin does get cut, somebody will pick him up. Like, he's a good coach in the sense that he'll set a floor, he'll establish a winning culture. And there are a lot of teams that, guess what, 9-8 would mean the world to them. I just don't think that. I think the Steelers fans and this organization, at least the fan base, is kind of tired of that. So I think we're at an impasse where maybe in the offseason, obviously you don't cut them. You phrase it that you were mutually parting ways, and then you move on. You find somebody else, and it might lead to some rough times for Pittsburgh. But honestly, at this point, they need some rough times. They just need some high end blue chip prospects to actually build their team around.
Yeah, and look, I think maybe part of it is unrealistic expectations. They brought in Aaron Rodgers, and it seemed like to some Steelers fans, they felt like, you bring him in, that's going to be enough to kind of get you into the playoffs and get that playoff win that they haven't had in a few years. I didn't like the move with Aaron Rodgers to begin with. I think we're seeing it play out. Like, the offense, it's, as Jory put it, it's kind of meh. It's a lot of, dump offs underneath with the occasional over the top play. I think defenses, if you're good enough, it's not that hard to kind of scheme against it. So them being a 500 team kind of makes sense for what the talent that they have. Now, if you want to look at the defensive side of the ball and say what's going on that side, because we've seen that side look horrible, and then the occasional game they look okay, technically that's Tomlin's side of the ball. And I think if you want to make the comment about Tomlin needs to go, I feel like this works for any coach. If the side of the ball that you're supposed to be, that you were hired basically from, starts to slip, I think that kind of reflects on you more than anything. So I kind of agree at this point. It might be time for Tomlin to start off somewhere else. And I also agree if the Steelers had, if the Steelers cut ties from Tomlin tomorrow, he'd probably have another job by the weekend. Like, he's just that kind of guy. Like, he's a guy that, some team that's probably kind of undisciplined would bring in to establish a foundation and then, kind of go from there.
It's funny, Jory brought up her team. That I think, like I said, a team like the Titans, like a team that needs just somebody to establish a winning culture. I think that'd be great. Obviously, we talked about the offenses. I think that's one of Tomlin's biggest downfalls is his choices in offensive coordinators. Arthur Smith is pretty bad as an offensive coordinator. I think Aaron Rodgers could work in a structure at this point, but obviously he can't be the whole system like in his prime. So having Arthur Smith in that regard doesn't help. And obviously before that, we had Pittsburgh legend Matt Canada. So
Yeah.
if when it comes to Tomlin, I agree with the offenses, and I think that's one of his big pitfalls is he struggles picking coordinators, man.
Yeah. I guess sheesh, what's going on? Rudy need to cut ties with Tomlin already. Yeah. And it kind of seems like that's where it's leading, unless the season all of a sudden turns around, I guess, better. And it ends up better than the way it's kind of trending. Like they're trending towards not being a playoff team. Next one. Panthers get a surprising win over the Rams last week. The Panthers they're an interesting team to watch. Like they'll go from a Monday night performance where they look like they don't belong on the field with really good teams in this league to then taking on who a lot of people say the best team in the NFC with the Rams. It not only go toe to toe with them, but beat them in the end. And Bryce Young had a great game. 3 touchdown passes. The Panthers showed some aggression. 4th and 2. Instead of, maybe a little simple run to try to barely get the first down, they go over the top, Ted McMillan for a big touchdown. So looking at the Panthers, we obviously know the Bucks, have had some struggles in recent weeks. Falcons, I know we had a Falcons fan in here, but they're kind of out of it. But could the Panthers win the NFC South? Did that Rams win make you more of a believer in them, or you still think the Bucks kind of prevail?
Here's the thing with the Panthers. In all reality, I think next week will tell me more than anything, right? Impressive win, great win. What's the problem with the Panthers? Consistency. Because I'm not going to forget, guess what? You had a chance against a banged up 49ers team to make a great statement, and you put up a goose egg. Next week, you beat the Rams. Impressive win. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I think next week, this coming week, will simply be the biggest test for the Panthers in all reality. Actually, are they on a bye this week?
Yeah, they're on a bye this week.
Sorry, next week.
I know what you meant, like their next game.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that's up. Honestly, I slipped my mind that bye weeks are still going on.
I think this is the final week for buys, I believe. Yeah.
But yes, I think with the Panthers, the next game, and ironically, it's against the Saints, but I think that's a huge test for them. Are you going to play with the same aggression, fire, that you did against the Rams?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just going to kind of mail it in? If they come out and show some consistency over the next remaining couple weeks against the Saints and going forward, yeah, sure, they can win the division, but if they keep playing inconsistent football and put up a goose egg against the Saints and they look out of sorts again, then the Buccaneers probably run away with it. Like I said, I feel like a good barometer of them, ironically, will be against the Saints, because Saints have been very competitive in a lot of their losses. So I'm kind of waiting to see, not this week, but the following week, see what happens when they go play New Orleans.
Right. Jory put proud of Bryce Young's growth. I agree. Between this performance against the Rams, the Falcons game where he threw for like 450 yards, we're seeing, the guy who coming out of Alabama was a, pretty good prospect, struggled early on, but it seems like he's found one, McMillan, the wide receiver. It seems like that's been a big for him. And I guess we have to give Canales some credit as a guy who was on a hot seat and has really showed some growth with this team as well. And like you said, the Saints game will be important because they're on a bye. They're going to come off the bye, against the Saints team that, like you said, has been competitive. But the Panthers should feel like they're the better team. They are the better team. So now go out and show that you're the better team, because that Saints game will be what leads into a stretch run that's going to define their season, where you have the Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. Like if they come out of that stretch 2-1, they probably win the division. If they go 3-0, then maybe we're might look at the Panthers a lot differently come playoffs as a team that maybe won't be expected a lot from, but could surprise one of the bigger, I guess, teams in the NFC. Like they're so young that momentum could be a lot for them heading into the playoffs. But like you said, starts with the Saints game. They absolutely have to win that game. Let's be honest, they probably should win it kind of comfortably, at least by like 7-10. Like I would be uh, definitely not
Right.
surprised by that, but I would congratulate them for doing that.
No, absolutely. If it's a close game throughout the entire thing, it's going to be more the process for me. Like if you win a 3-point game, but the offense looks completely disjointed, or if you win like a double digit game, but the process is just completely disjointed, and you won because Tyler shucked through like 4 picks. Like to me, the process is going to be the biggest thing about the Panthers' next game.
Yeah. All right. Texans Colts. Colts are a team a couple of weeks ago. They seemed like they were going to run away with the AFC. They now wake up. Well, they woke up today realizing that one, they no longer lead the division because the Jags do. Two, they could play their way out of a playoff spot because three, the team that they lost to in Houston has a lot of momentum behind them and are now just a game behind the Colts, which if the Texans kind of pass them, I find it hard to believe that this AFC South gets three teams into the playoffs. So the Colts could be that team left out in the cold after the start that they had. Uh, I mean, Jory, yes, Colts have turned back into pumpkins. She brought that up. I believe it's been a couple of weeks now, so she definitely seems like she was ahead of the trend. But I guess how worried are you about the Colts as just a playoff team right now?
I mean, you have to be very worried. They're on a bad run now. All of a sudden, Jacksonville and Houston they're in a dogfight with Houston and Jacksonville. Like,
Hmm?
the alarms are blaring. You're at DEFCON 1 if you're the Colts. Like, now all of a sudden this weekend turns into a must-win game. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can't be losing like any divisional games. Clearly the injury that Daniel Jones is trying to play through has clearly affected him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not great. Obviously, they still have a good chance to make the playoffs, but it all starts this weekend. They have to win, and if they lose, it really almost. I'm not going to say it'll be completely over for them, but it'll feel like it's over for them if they lose this weekend to Jacksonville.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because I guess with the Jacksonville game, if they were to lose it, I think the expectation would be that they just completely let go of the rope and just start losing game after game here. I guess on the other side, the Texans. Are the Texans the most dangerous team that's not in the playoffs that's kind of lurking? We know what they do defensively. We know what CJ Stroud can be, as we saw in his rookie season. We know D'Amico Ryans as a coach. I feel like he's done a really good job down in Houston. They're a talented team that kind of got off to a slow start. So yeah, are they the most dangerous team sitting outside the playoffs right now? And that's including obviously the Chiefs and some others.
I'd say it's a tough one, obviously between them and Kansas City. They probably are. I'd give the edge to them. I know their line's a little messy. Their line's still messy, but
Mm-hmm.
they're starting to finally like get some more cohesiveness and work their way around it. And
Mm-hmm.
with Hunter and Anderson anchoring that defense, yeah, this could be They could be the most dangerous team, just that's not in the playoffs currently. But they could be. I think I'd still go with the Chiefs. I'm going to give that respect to, Patty Mahomes and
Mhm.
company since they've been there, done that. But it's real close. You could flip a coin. But I'll still stick with the Chiefs, but I completely understand if people want to go Texans.
Yeah. Follow up. If you could pick a defense to lead you into the playoffs, you take Houston's or Denver's?
Denver's.
Okay. I mean, yeah, Denver's is pretty good. Like Nick Benito is it's just crazy what he's doing. I mean, I
Benito.
love Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter and Stingley on the back end for sure, but I probably would go with Denver's as well.
It's tough, but it's just so hard when you have a duo like Bonito and Sertan.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, like Riley Moss started off the year really rough with a lot of DP, pass interferences, and he gets targeted a lot. But
He
I
played
think
really well against the Commanders.
he did. I think a lot of people don't understand that he gets targeted a lot because it's
Yes.
either throw to him or Sertan. So I think that he gets a little bit of a bad rep at times. But I even think that like against the Commanders, I thought he was a capable number 2 quarterback, and that's really all you need on the other side of Sertan.
Yeah.
If he
Like, I'll
can make
call it now. I need Broncos Texans in the playoffs. I think to some people the game might be, well, obviously ugly because the offenses will definitely struggle against each other. But I just for playoff football, I just want that kind of matchup. Two teams hitting hard, and it's a struggle offensively. You're waiting for that one big play to kind of break it open. That's the matchup I need.
it won't be the worst offensive struggle you've seen in the playoffs.
True.
At least it'll be a fun one with good defenses.
Yeah.
I'll never forget like willingly watching Brock Osweiler versus Connor Cook in the 2016 playoffs, and it was an offensive struggle, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like it wasn't like the defenses are overwhelming. It's just the
It was
quarterback
just
was
terrible
so
quarterback play.
bad that you're just like, oh, I don't even know why I'm watching this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Bears Eagles happened on Black Friday. The Bears basically just played like smash mouth Mike Ditka football against the Eagles, ran the ball all over them. The Eagles, heard boos from the crowd. Every possession ended in a punt, every missed throw, everything like that. Bears are 9-3. I don't know. I would be hard pressed to think that even Bears fans thought the Bears would be 9-3 right now. The Eagles are 8-4. I feel like the conversations about the NFC East division, 'cause I feel like you see it every day. Like now there's this talk about Cowboys catching them and passing them and all that kind of stuff, which I don't know if you believe in that, but I do think if that were to happen, I think wholesale changes in Philly will obviously be on the docket. Sirianni would probably be gone. AJ Brown probably will be gone in the offseason, but he'll definitely be gone. And it'll just be a complete, I don't know, it'll be complete chaos in Philly. But I guess to focus on the Bears a little bit here. How good are the Bears exactly? Because like we hear Ben Johnson talk about Caleb Williams and the passing offense needs to be better, but they have a game like this where they can just line up and run the ball on people. Defensively, I feel like they were, pretty good against the Eagles, but some of that was the Eagles' struggles on offense, playmaking, execution, all that involved in that. But are the Bears a team to kind of fear in the postseason? Or are they kind of just getting by right now?
I think they're a team that will give whoever they play a tough matchup. I don't think that they're ready yet to make, a deep run. And I think a lot of that will just end up coming to do with experience. This is a team that it's a real young team. There's not a ton of playoff experience, it feels like, on this team. A lot of their core players are just real young. Obviously, they got some playoff experience. They got like Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Byard at safety, who's been terrific for them. But I think that this Chicago Bears team, I'll give them all the credit in the world. They've played terrific, and I think they're going to be dangerous come playoff time. I don't think their playoff, run lasts, too long. I don't think they're going to make it too deep. But no, all the credit in the world to them. Ben Johnson came in and changed the identity, and
Yeah.
he's done that so successfully. So, bravo to Bears fans and your franchise. Great turnaround. Love to see it.
Yeah. So I guess follow up would be if the Bears made the playoffs and were one and done, would that temper kind of the surprise? Not the surprise, but the excitement that you would have for the team going forward, or just the fact that they would make the playoffs would be enough for you to feel kind of enthusiastic with the direction that they're going in?
It has to make you feel enthusiastic, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was your expectation? Like, if I were to ask you, what was your expectation for the Bears before the season started? You might have said like, okay, I think they could be better than the Vikings, but they're not going to be better than the Packers or Lions.
Right.
Probably third in their own division. They might make a wild card. There's an outside chance, but there's going to be some growing pains. So the fact that like a lot of people are expecting this team to be like third or at times even fourth in their own division,
Mm-hmm.
to now they're first in the entire NFC. Like even at this point, if they just make a wild card spot and lose in the first game, you can't call this season anything but an overarching success for Chicago. Like they've already blew away expectations, and
Yeah.
the Ben Johnson era is just off to a terrific start, and you just can't help but feel anything but excited for him, and I'm excited for him. Look, a rivalry is only as good as the two teams in it. So seeing the Bears,
Absolutely.
back, all of a sudden now the Packers Bear rivalry is a little more fun now, ain't it?
Mm-hmm. And look, what people kind of miss with rivalries as well. Obviously, the Bears elevating their play just puts more pressure on the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings to up their level as well. So it just works all around. I agree with that. Last time the Bears were in the playoffs, that's actually a good question. I was thinking about that as well. Hold on.
I think it was like 2018 or was it 2018?
The last playoff appearance was 2021. They lost to the Saints in the wild card round.
Oh, okay. Oh, they did. I forgot. I completely forgot about that. I thought the last time they made it was like 2018ish or 20, whenever the double doink happened. I think it was around that time frame.
Oh, yeah, double doink. That was a time. I felt so bad for that kicker.
I did too. I did too because they put all the blame on the kicker that game,
Yeah.
but they failed to realize that the only reason they were in that game was Cody Parkey was money all game except for that last kick. Like if your offense could have moved the ball a little bit, you wouldn't be in this situation. But the fact that you're only in this game and you want to turn on Parkey, even though the reality is he's the one that kept you in the game because you couldn't move the ball. Like I thought that was a bit unfair.
Yeah. And I guess a little bit further, Bears' last playoff win, 2011, when they beat the Seahawks in the divisional round. Since then, they went 2018 where they lost to the Eagles and then the Saints lost. So it's been a while for them, especially for a win. So I mean, look, I agree with you. Whatever happens the rest of the season, you like the direction they're going in. It seems like obviously they got the right guy at head coach finally. Quarterback, I feel like the jury might still be out on him, but it seems like it's off to a better start than the Justin Fields era, which
Easily.
I mean, I still say the Fields era was not necessarily all Fields, but the organization I don't think was doing right by him either. They seem like they learned from that and are making better decisions with Caleb Williams. So hopefully that continues.
Well, like the biggest problem with Justin Fields, and the Bears have done this with time and time and time again after quarterback, is you just didn't see any improvements from him. They just like took the quarterback as they were in college
Yeah,
and like threw him on the field and said, "All right, here you go. Here's our shiny new toy." Well, that doesn't always work. Like
right.
Justin Fields, you didn't really see a lot of improvement from him, and that just seemed to be a common theme with Bears quarterbacks up until Caleb. But to his credit, Caleb, continues to show market improvement, which it's been a while since you can say that about a Bears quarterback. So it just
Yeah,
seems like that the culture's changing for the better over there.
yeah, absolutely. And look, it's good to see. All right, couple more games, then we'll get into tonight's game really quickly. Make sure we're out of here before kickoff. We talked about this team earlier with the Ravens, but they lose Thanksgiving night to the Bengals. Bengals are 4-8. Not great, but for whatever reason, they are still actually in play in the division. They still have two games against the Steelers coming up. I believe they have another game against the Ravens left. So knowing how the Steelers and the Ravens are playing right now, because I've kind of thrown this out there. This is my crazy propaganda. I think the Bengals could actually win the division. I guess, how crazy is it to think that? Because my thinking is Joe Burrow is playing the best at quarterback in the division. I mean, I'd argue he's the best quarterback in the division anyway. The offense is what it is. I think the reason why I think they could win the division, the defense has played better over the past maybe 3 weeks. And I think if they keep that level up, and I think the Joe Burrow reinsertion into the lineup kind of gives them that energy to continue playing the way that they're playing right now. And look, I'm serious. I really think the Bengals, in the end, win the division. Now, the margin of error is obviously like razor thin. They probably have to win out because they have this stretch of Bills and then Ravens again. But then after that, it kind of lightens up with, Dolphins and some other teams. But, what are the odds you're giving the Bengals to win the division after all they've gone through this year? What's up, Theo? What's up, Mo?
Hey, what's good, Mo?
That's a good point. Caleb is having fun.
I would say not very high. I'd give maybe like a 20% chance. It just feels like the problem with them is they waited too long. And obviously some of that you can say isn't their fault because of the Joe Burrow injury.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of that is obviously just not identifying that Jake Browning wasn't it sooner and going to find a new quarterback that could have won you maybe a couple of those games that he lost.
True. Yep.
It's one of those things that I think they waited too late. The funny part is them only being 2 games back in the division is just diabolical at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So they still have a chance. It's there. They could pull it off if they win out, but it just feels like we saw the script last year for this team, and it feels like it's reading similar again. Too little, too late. And I think that's what's going to end up happening with the Bengals. They're gonna come so close, but then they're gonna fall just short.
Yes, that's the point I was just about to make. To think about if they had won those games, you'd have 3 teams at 6-6, and then the race would be just crazy at this point. If the Bengals win that division, fire Harbaugh. Hey, maybe that's the motivation in the back of my mind. And then the other part of my mind is like, well, if you keep Harbaugh, the Ravens are just going to keep doing what they're doing, which that also makes me happy too. He needs to go regardless, yeah.
Say him and Zach Taylor. I don't care what happens. Zach Taylor. I feel like Zach Taylor, barring a run to the Super Bowl, that man just got to go. Even if they make the playoffs, win wild card weekend, Zach Taylor's just got to go.
Yeah. Crazy enough, are the Bengals a team that even Mike Tomlin's terrible decisions on offense couldn't bury? Because he's not Joe Burrow. like Tomlin probably sits at home and is like, if I'd had that guy, these fans wouldn't be calling for my job. Like, what are we doing here? Look, I think, like you said before, our crazy thought of just coaches in that division on the merry-go-round just going other places would be hilarious if it happened.
Let's just send Zach Taylor to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, the Browns are bad enough. Let's just give them the worst coach in the division. See what happens. Like, Can they be the first team to go 0-17? Tune in to find out, folks.
Right. Okay. Cowboys Chiefs. That happened. That was the middle game on Thanksgiving. Dak and that offense, especially late in the game, really took it to the Chiefs defense, targeting those corners, and Pickens had a great game. CeeDee Lamb had a great game. I alluded to this earlier. People talking about the Cowboys making the comeback and winning the division. Like I said, I don't know if there's enough time for them to do that, but have the Cowboys at least shown that they are a playoff team? Like, they're 6-5-1. They are, I think, a game out in the playoffs.
They need to win the division if they want to actually make the playoffs. I think at this point, the only chance that they have if they want to make the playoffs is either just a really massive. They
probably need a collapse from somebody.
They would need a collapse from the 49ers or the Packers. Otherwise, you're looking at the 6 and 7 seeds already having 8 and 9 wins respectively. So it really feels like if the Cowboys want to make the playoffs, their best bet is a Philadelphia Eagles collapse, which obviously the Eagles have lost the last 2. So might be their best bet to make it is winning the division off the back of an Eagles collapse.
Yeah. And, I mean, we talked about the Bengals wishing they had a couple of weeks back. The Cowboys really wish that game that ended in a tie they could have back. Because right now that tie is kind of what's holding them back. Like, if they were 7-5 at this point, their path would look a little cleaner and you might feel a little bit more optimistic about them. But being 6-5-1, it's just, there's a lot of things that have to go in their favor if they're going to make it. And look, they may just ultimately be a really good team that just missed the playoffs. And we always get one of those, like at least one of those a year, where you go, like, if that team got in, they could be somewhat of a headache. But
how about those Patriots?
What's up, John? We talked about them earlier.
Drake
Christian else out there laying guys out. Vrabel turning the culture around. Drake May, which I think is hilarious that Drake May's nickname is Drake May, so people call him Drake May, which it's hilarious, but it kind of shows where the team is just having so much fun right now. But yeah, John, looking forward to the bye week. They have earned it. What was it talking about? Oh yeah, so last one before we get into tonight's game, which we'll do really quickly. Like I said, before kickoff, we'll be out of here. Packers Lions. The Packers kind of showed people, hey, don't forget about us. Like, we're still here. We're still, winning games. They're 8-3-1. Yeah, the tie's like a loss, especially now. That's what's hurting them. But Love throws 4 touchdown passes. They have Jaden Reed coming back. Are the Packers now hitting that little stride where if you forgot about them, you better get back on board because this team is really talented. And oh yeah, Micah Parsons is really showing out right now. So I'll give you the stage here. I guess, how good are the Packers? And I guess, how dangerous can this Packers team be in January?
They can be very dangerous. Defense is Super Bowl caliber. I think they've shown that already. Outside of one off game against the Cowboys, this defense has been elite all year. And a lot of people, there's still this enigma that Jordan Love is, to beat the Packers, just wait for Jordan Love to make the big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? He only has 3 interceptions all year. The Packers have the fewest turnovers all year. Jordan Love is also like middle of the pack in turnover worthy plays. He's just not turning the ball over. So it's a weird stigma that still follows him, like he's some sort of turnover machine. The reality is, Jordan Love's been elite this year. He's closer to it. So he's closer to a top 5 quarterback than he is the top 10. That's why it's been all year. And if he continues that level of play going into January, and if the defense, starts, the defense has already been playing well. I think they can do even better. If they heat up at the right time and Jordan Love keeps playing like he does, I have no reason to believe that the Green Bay Packers can't make it all the way to the Super Bowl. It'll be tough. I'm not saying it's a lock, but I think that once you look at this team and how much talent, because I know a lot of people are like counting us out once we lost Tucker Kraft, and that's a big loss. But I hope that 31 piece we put on the Lions, I hope people start to realize that this team has a very, very big assortment of talent that they can throw out there, especially at wide receivers. So I agree, Mo. The offense got to get more consistent, but I do think that this is a dangerous team that if they can find it, that consistency, they very well could make a Super Bowl run.
Yes, Jerk, I know why. Will Aaron Rodgers be the nail in the coffin for Tomlin and the Steelers? Yeah, John, we talked about that earlier. My thing is, I think the Aaron Rodgers signing brought about unrealistic expectations for the team. So now that people are calling for Tomlin's job, like the Steelers are supposed to be some great team because they brought in Rodgers. So I do think, yes, Rodgers will probably be the nail in the coffin, but Arthur Smith still having a job is a nail in the coffin, and there's a lot working against Tomlin right now. It is Toyotathon, so it's the annual, Jordan Love skyrocketing performances time of the year. So I guess quick follow up, because I feel like, because you mentioned a lot of people look at Jordan Love like he's some gunslinging turnover machine when he actually isn't. I think the other thing you realize is people look at Jordan Love and they don't want to put him into like an elite level or great level. Like they make it seem like Jordan Love is still this unproven commodity. Do you view Jordan Love as elite? And if you're going to say elite, probably like a top 5 quarterback. I think if you're going to say he's a really good quarterback, you're probably looking at from like 6 to 10 area. Like where do you think Jordan Love fits?
I think he's in like the top half of that like 6 to 10 area. I think I wouldn't put him in the conversation with guys like, Joe, with like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, the top of the league guys, but once you start getting into conversations, like a lot of people like going next tier being like, oh, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, which obviously Stafford's elevated his game this year a lot. But I think normally, I think he's right in about that tier. Like, he is not the cream of the crop. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But I think Jordan Love has shown now for a couple of years that he's consistently played at a very high end to borderline elite level. And I think he's like right there. I think he's a tier below your elite quarterbacks.
I agree. I really like Jordan Love's game. Says Tomlin might be out, but so is look. Rodgers need to hit that retirement home. I think he's been in it long enough. Just stay home, hit that ayahuasca, just hide out in them caves forever. Like just enjoy life. I don't need to see another year of Rodgers out there trying to. Yeah, no, don't need it. All right, so as we are kind of approaching kickoff, we have Cowboys Lions tonight. We know it's on the line. 6-5-1. I mean, both teams we've talked about. So 6-5-1 Cowboys, 7-5 Lions. Like, I think we talked more so about the Cowboys of this being like an elimination game. But looking at the Lions, if the Lions lose tonight, should we kind of consider them out of the running for a playoff spot here?
It would be very bleak, but yeah, it feels like it. losing the tiebreaker to the Cowboys, and when you're trying to catch up to teams like Green Bay and the 49ers, that's going to be a tough sledding. So it feels like whoever loses this one, they might not technically be out, but their chances to get in really, really take a bad hit.
And John brings up, no St. Brown, no Sewell. So this is a game. If the Cowboys want to at least, I guess, keep their playoff hopes on life alert, they have to go out and get. So I guess get out of here. What's your score prediction? Like, who do you have winning tonight?
Give me the Cowboys 27-17. I think no Sewell will be too much to overcome, and even though Brown's giving it a go, he's less than 100%. So give me the Cowboys by 10.
Okay. I think it's a game that the Cowboys need to start off fast and really put the pressure on the Lions. I don't know. Oddly, I feel like the Lions win, and maybe it's like a 24-21 type of thing, very nail biter towards the end, and maybe a late field goal. I don't know. I got the Lions in a close one. Got the Lions must-win game for them. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, the game literally just kicked off, so we took you right up to it. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Brett, you got anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, make sure to tune into the And One podcast in about 40 minutes. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers being in a retirement home. We'll, of course, touch on Chris Paul's early retirement home, too. So, among other things, it'll be a great time.
Right. Yes, Jory, yeah, he's out there. I know there's some questions about whether or not he would play tonight, but yes, he's out there. And look, Goff hit him early, so I'm hoping my Lions prediction works out. But we'll see. Obviously, you guys have to tune in next week. Another edition of Sideline to Sideline. We'll talk about, obviously, at that point, week 14? It's crazy. So we're even closer to the playoffs. But appreciate all of you for coming through. If you're new, hit that like, follow, subscribe, check out all of the other great shows here on the network. I'm back on here tomorrow night with Jory and Key, Passion and Precision. Make sure to tune in for that as well. As Brett said, tune in to him and Mo later on tonight for And One. Get you caught up with all the NBA action. So thank you. Appreciate you. See you next week. We are out of here. All right. Bye.